Today, technology has reached the epitome of being omnipresent and attainable to all. And in this transforming process, the focus falls on accessibility. So let's delve deeper into the concept of accessibility via this video, which will give a comprehensive insight on this topic. What really is accessibility? In today's day and age, we cannot look at it in isolation. We need to understand it from the context of the larger attribute of usability. Usability is all about determining whether a product is simple, easy, and intuitive to use by the end user. Accessibility, which is in one sense a subset of usability, is to ensure that a product is available and accessible by one and all, both by people with and without disabilities. Let's now quickly look at the main categories of disabilities. The first is visual impairment. These could range all the way from complete blindness to partial blindness to even low vision. Second one is lack of motor skills, which deals with the inability to interact with a website or operate technology as it focuses on issues with limbs and their movement. Hear impairment. Auditory impairment again spans the complete spectrum from full audio loss to partial audio loss or low hearing. Cognitive disabilities. This could include reading difficulties, dyslexia, memory loss, or any other associated mental or behavioral disability, thus interfering with an application's use. So, in times as such, what can really be done? Obviously, it is not just the role that technology has to play, it is also about how organizations understand and leverage such technological aids to make accessibility a reality. It all starts with the right understanding and exposure to the available guidelines. Specific to the US geography, there is a section 508 WCAG 2.0 and the ADA. We also have to keep in mind that today's need is not just about accessibility on desktop solutions, but also accessibility in the mobile world. This includes a number of checks from ensuring that functionality is accessible. The accessibility features understand the mobile context, such as user preference and positioning, access across devices and data entry methods, the overall sync of audios and videos to even multimodality. The accessibility standards for mobile engineering are gradually becoming mainstream with inbuilt tools in mobile platforms to accommodate accessibility checks. All of this further increases in scope when we include assistive tools such as joysticks, screen magnifiers, screen readers, etc. These all get included in the scope of accessibility test effort. So before we get into the guidelines, let's quickly look at the core elements which pave the way for building an accessible product. Although not an exhaustive set, it will surely be a comprehensive one to start with. Herein, we need to keep in mind that content is a very important piece for evaluation. All the accessible features and designs are mainly to ensure that the content reaches the end users effectively in order to enable them in making the right product choices and complete their intended actions. To this effect, we need to ensure that the content is in the right text size, color, contrast, ratio, has minimal flash, alternative text, and is checked for across the entire spectrum of content which the end user will see. For all text, say for example, I have an image of a cat and it reads it out as a tiger because all text for that image is set as tiger. Then it is completely an irrelevant and wrong piece of content to begin with. The guidelines suggest a color contrast ratio of a minimum 4.5:1 for the foreground to the background color, while the ideal ratio is 7:1 for content to be seen, well, including those with low vision. All of these are important elements to consider early on while designing the product. Once you understand your user base, ask the right questions to map users to their requirements, which will help build the right designs and engineering plan. The basic questions revolve around their tasks, the environment in which they operate, the devices that they use, the data entry methods, their level of digital savviness, just as a sample set. The question that comes forth is, where should one start? Well, it all starts with users. Understanding who the users are, what are their differences, whether it be on the grounds of their knowledge levels, beliefs, cultural nuances, backgrounds, interest, preference, goals, or requirements. Such an understanding is the first step towards an inclusive design. WCAG at a high level talks about four main elements at a design and implementation level, mainly for the content to be perceivable, operable, understandable, and robust. Being quite self-explanatory, we will just cover the high-level categories under WCAG in our next slide. All of these guidelines can become quite overwhelming to adopt given the level of details. To make adoption more feasible, WCAG offers 12 guidelines, each with 3 levels of compliance, which help in determining the testing success criteria. A, which is the bare minimum set, AA, which is a more realistic and generally accepted set, and finally AAA, which is the most difficult level of conformance to adhere to. It really starts early and is often done iteratively to ensure not just defects but also user recommendations to be taken in, sometimes even after lunch. It is done in conjunction with other test types such as functionality, performance, to ensure that they are not compromised due to accessibility and vice versa. A good understanding of guidelines, along with using tools such as screen readers, color contrast, analyzers, helps build a cohesive quality efforts towards accessibility. Mobile platforms today have built-in accessibility tools such as VoiceOver, TalkBack, bringing accessibility further with the reach of engineering terms and end users. Also, slowly mobile accessibility guidelines such as the one specific for Android, iOS are taking shape, thus giving more traction to app developers. A unique approach of peer testing is an expedient way to provide quality. In this approach, our accessibility test experts work in close collaboration with the visually challenged engineer periodically to ensure enhanced test coverage as well as report issues that are indeed genuine. And in our experience, we have noticed that just an accessibility test engineer is able to bring in about 40% test coverage. Just a visually challenged engineer is able to bring in about 70% coverage, but together they are able to bring in about 100% coverage in the quality efforts. Let's move on to looking at the test approach and how these can be categorized from black and white box angles. Of the one listed here, the manual evaluation of the application in function and the use of automated tools can be considered as tests done at a black box level, as the tester still operates at a non-system or non-code level. When he takes in the output of the automated tools and start looking at the codes to understand what has happened where, slowly he moves into the white box zone. Code review comes in as a white box testing technique wherein we look at the codes and map them to the guidelines and recommendations provided by the mandates to see whether they have been fully covered or not. Herein, we have divided our entire focus in smaller categories, which enables us to test with ease and also test for a complete coverage, thereby empowering us to confidently tell our clients whether the application is ready for market release or not. Firstly, there is a manual inspection and review. This is something which will continue to exist in the area of accessibility. Any amount of automation cannot replace manual evaluation. Secondly, there are automated tools. These are tools which run in unattended mode and generate reports providing feedback on the accessibility readiness of an application. They definitely come in handy in assisting the manual test process. We will discuss examples on this in a few minutes. Thirdly, the focus we are trying to bring in is from the guideline standpoint. This need not necessarily be looked at as a separate category because this can be done either manually or using automated tools. However, just to make sure these are not missed on, we account for them as a separate head in our test process. And finally, we have real user testing, wherein with the pair testing approach at QA InfoTech, we have been successful in realizing quality from a real user's perspective. Tools that the team initially leverages are largely the assistive ones. Tools such as screen readers, magnifiers, contrast analyzers enables them to both interact with the application sites as well as to take up some initiated automated checks to further perform analysis both manually and in an automated manner. Zoom Text, for example, is a commercial screen magnifying tool for Windows and Mac. JAWS and NVDA are power screen reader tools that several organizations and end users leverage. Our own automation framework leverages X and Selenium, which brings in combinatorial testing, facilitating functional and accessibility automated checks. Color Contrast Analyzer helps you analyze foreground to background color ratios. VoiceOver and TalkBack are built-in screen readers in iOS and Android. Also, you have Bluetooth keyboards that enhance interactivity by mimicking actions on VoiceOver and TalkBack, helping testers in the accessibility team who are not necessarily disabled. Handy checklists can be used by one and all, not just the engineering team, to create overall awareness for usability and accessibility elements. For example, a business team member can easily try any of these tests clubbed with the end user data that he may have received to have a discussion with the design team. A functional tester can try these to see the functionality and accessibility of the site, etc. Without a doubt, accessibility is a compelling subject, and today, software organizations are willing to ensure that their product can be used by everyone. Nonetheless, it is vital to have awareness about accessibility at all levels with the intention that the final product can benefit all individuals irrespective of the diverse assistive technologies being used. It is relatively convenient to implement accessibility testing and make it as an integral part of our testing and development process. We hope that you learned a little something from our video on making accessibility your priority. To keep on exploring on the same, log on to our site www.qainfotech.com. Thank you.